you go and get a dump trailer? Like, how did you start off?
So, okay, so my buddy, he lived out in Hayward, and he knew I was just getting started. We did some work together. We did some armed security together, and he's like, "Hey, man, I got a junk call for you." Ended up being my first customer. Went up to Hayward. Made no money on it. I was just trying to get some content, get the ball rolling, and went up there, and I was actually borrowing my pops' utility trailer. So it was a landscape utility trailer, just with a little two wheels, and didn't really do much, but just transport some small stuff, debris, and ended up using that. Did the job, and then we ended up going to the landfill, and used it the first time. I was like, dang, like
Well,
it's kind
let
of
me
tough.
ask you this: how far was the landfill from you? Because obviously you didn't look that up or anything. Like that could have been another bad move
Uh,
right there. Would it have been if it
I,
was like 50 miles away or something?
yeah, I actually was. Because I came back down to haul it to where I'm from to dump it. Yeah. So it was kind of crazy, but one more thing, and this is kind of where I flipped the switch. I ended up getting my first hit off of next door, and it was my first big job. Right, it was $500, and this guy was moving, and it was crazy because where I'm at, it was kind of more in the rural, like kind of in the sticks, I guess you could say. It was like 20 minutes out from the city, deep in the hills, and it just so happened to be on the top of the hill with a narrow road. So this was my first big job, and I charged $500 for it, and we did it, and I lost a bunch of money. I lost money. I paid my boy. I hired him. I paid my boy cash. I was like, hey man, I just need some help. I'm trying to get this thing rolling, and he helped me out. And this is my pivotal moment. Was we got to the landfill, right, and then we had mixed stuff, concrete, tool, like just metal, just a bunch of it was crazy. And I didn't know what I was really doing, how to charge. I was just going with the flow, and we got to the landfill, and I seen all these guys with the big trucks too. I mean, I had a pretty good sized truck, but these guys had these other trailers with. I noticed they were like tilting up, and I remember I called up my dad. I was like, "Dad," he's like, "What?" I was like, "Hey, I'm at the landfill. What are these trailers that lift up? Like, what are they?" He's like, "Oh, those are dump trailers." And I noticed everybody was out in like 10 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes, and I was there for an hour. Trying to unload all this concrete and the debris. It was crazy. And then that was it. I was like, "Oh hell no!" So I ended up getting my credit card, and then I asked him, I was like, "Hey, where'd you get your trailer at?" He's all FGM trailers. Shout out to Felipe over there if you guys need a trailer down in San Jose. And I was like, "Hey, Felipe, my dad bought a trailer from you. Do you, any?" I was like, "Do you have anything like this?" Came down and maxed out my credit card, 10 grand, boom. And then my buddy thought I was crazy. He's like, "Dude," I was like, "Dude, I'm doing it. I need it. We're not going to make no money without this dump trailer." And at the time, again, I started with during inflation, and I think there was a shortage even on like metal and things that are like just on the heavy machinery. So they didn't really have much of an inventory, and I was only able to get the 6 by 10 by 2 feet with the 2 feet walls. So I was like, dang, like it was all I could afford too, because everything was inflated. Everything went from 5 grand or 5.9 to like 8, 9, 9,000 or 11,000 out the door, and it was everything I could get. So we ended up just building the walls up 2 feet, so it was a 6 by 10 by 4, and that was it.
Very
And
cool.
I think my first month and a half or 2 months in, I did 20.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I want to shout out a couple people in the chat. We got a
Okay.
bunch of my arm wrestling friends popping in. We got the Schmo.
All
What's
right.
up, Schmo? We got Sonoma Strong says, "I respect the hustle, brother." Hell yeah. We got
Appreciate you guys.
Devin's forearm. Yo, yo, what's up, brother? How you doing? Love it. All my arm wrestling friends are popping in. That's pretty cool, man. Gonna teach them a new industry to get into and all. So this leads me to my next question. Since we got all these new guys that aren't actually in the junk industry in here, what is a tip that you would give to somebody starting off in the junk removal biz after all the experience that you have and the story that you just told?
A tip. Um, it depends on your area, but I would say do a little research.
Yeah.
Do a little research before you jump in. And you're either gonna be all in or you're not. You want to do this or you don't. And for me, putting this as hypothetically, I was just like, it was this or the coffin type of thing. At the time, I was in that survival mode, and I was like, you know what? I hated what I did anyway, and I hated that I got burned. It took me 7 years to get a position. I worked my way up in the kind of the corporate ladder, and what I was doing dealt with a lot of type A's, and I was like, dude, like, I don't want to go back. I don't want to go through this process again. And yeah, that's what I would say. I would definitely say have your research done first. Know your market, right? Do your research. Is there a demand for it in your area? And if there is, then just be all in. And I know everybody's in different situations, but if you're gonna want to start a business, your why has to be big, very big.
So what I would recommend for everybody, if you are interested in getting the junk removal business, is I call it YouTube College, and a perfect person to start off with is Sonoma Strong Hauling. And I always tell my story and all, and like my grandmother passed away, and I had to fly out to New York. I had to go help clean out her house and all. And as I was doing that, I asked the parents, I was like, she's got a lot of stuff here. Maybe there's somebody that we could call. And I just remember my mother saying, she made a few phone calls and they wanted thousands of dollars to clear out the house. And she's like, I think that's, ridiculous to pay that kind of money. So, as I'm doing the work, I just start, me being the entrepreneur I am, I start thinking, and I'm like, this is pretty easy work right here. And thousands of dollars, and I remember, my partner that runs my antique and collectible business in New York, I remember him saying that he worked with a junk removal business, and, they were bringing in a lot of stuff into our store that we were able to sell. So as soon as I left there, I called over to him and I was like, yo, how's your buddy doing with the junk removal company over there? And he's like, bro, killing it. This dude makes so much money. Like, it's a great business. Why are you asking? I said, I just had to, clean out my grandmother's house. And, I heard, quotes of what they were asking. So, I go back to California. So now I go get on YouTube, and the first people I find is Sonoma Strong, and I start just binge watching them, a good month or two of every single video they put out. And then, as I'm doing it, I realize they're right in my area. I see, their videos, and I'm like, holy shit, that's right in my town. Like they're
Yeah.
right here. So, so I really started investigating, and, I'd love when they would go to the dump and, they would have you guess how much money it was going to cost for the dump fees. And then, they would ask you how much, a full load would be. Like they would show a picture and like, how much would you charge for that?
Yep.
And I would just start, taking the guess, and I was always nailing it. I was like, yo, I got an eye for this shit, and then
Yeah.
I'm thinking, oh, how much they're charging, like, 7.99 for a full load. And I'm like, and now I'm seeing them doing multiple loads a day, and I'm just like, oh, and I'm with the calculator, and I'm like, yo, this is some money in here,
Yeah.
So then, went on from there. Next thing I'm hitting up Matt Vick, I see that he's throwing a junk expo, and, Matt's like, you could buy them over the phone. And I was like, nah, bro, I want to meet you in person, man. I want to shake your hand like a man. And, so I go and I meet up with him in person and just hit it off with Matt and all. And I'm like, yo, I like this. This is, next thing I know, I'm buying a brand new NPR dump truck, and,
Hmm.
he's showing me how to do everything. And, so that's, how I got into it. And it was all just learning everything from YouTube, just, you know,
Yep.
you could just teach yourself everything. So if anybody's in here and they're interested in, checking out their area, and I do remember one of the first things they always say is check your population, see what's in the area. That's a major, major thing.
Yep.
And another person that always preaches that is Andrew Thompson. He's got a autopilot, that software, and, he just sold his Jedi junk. And, just turns out that, being up here in the Bay Area, we got a huge population, and, we actually charge, one of the most across the country. And also, just everything worked out. And I got to say, thank God watching their videos, because, then I looked where the dumps were and the transfer station. Next thing I know, I'm literally two exits in each direction. Is one's a transfer station, one's a dump. So I'm like, oh, I'm in the perfect area for this. And also, YouTube is a very, very good resource to learn and, kind of just teach you the way to do everything. But I got to say, brother, I respect your hustle, man. It shows the true entrepreneur. And a lot of people that I see these days, they come up with all these plans, but they don't put them into action, and that's
Mhm.
like 99% of the people. They got so many great ideas. I'm one of those. In all the businesses that I got, I just jump in. Granted, I go and I do my research and I learn everything I can, but I'm recognizing the same thing in yourself. And to know that you only had $3,000 in your bank account, and you took that risk, and obviously it made sense and all. So a lot of respect for you like that, bro. I always respect entrepreneurs. I love hearing the stories, and there's so many different ways to come into this business. And I like hearing this whole background story and all. So
Thank you, Paulie. I appreciate you.